Hello there, welcome along to Good Morning Transfers. Bruno Fernandes starred against Liverpool last night, but how close is a move to the Premier League? We've got the latest on the Manchester United target.
Pep Guardiola admits Leroy Sané's future at Manchester City is not in the club's hands. Will Bayern Munich's determination eventually get them their top summer target?
Is this the day Arsenal finally announce new signings? The latest from the red half of North London coming up.
Idrissa Gueye is set for a move to Paris Saint-Germain, but where does this leave Marco Silva's Everton?
And the EFL kicks off in 8 days' time. We are live with the League One club, who have signed 9 players this summer. Don't forget, here's how to get involved in the show today.
Yeah, please do get in touch, and don't forget the Transfer Talk podcast, also available to download right now on iTunes, Spreaker, and it's also on the Sky Sports website. But let's get straight to it. Let's start with Manchester United. Reports linking them with Sporting's Bruno Fernandes. The player himself has said he wants to play in England. We understand United are aware of Fernandes, but he's not their priority signing, and it's unlikely that he'll join Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side this summer at this stage. It is understood he's on a list of potential signings, but is not near the top of that list. So talking about lists there, United have this list of targets. Where do we think they need to strengthen in particularly, though, Michael?
Well, it's an interesting one, this, because you'd imagine, we said it on the show a few days ago, that it was a bit of a no-brainer signing for Manchester United. He's a really top player, and he proved that again with a strong performance against who other than United's biggest rivals, Liverpool. We understand that United are keen on a central defender, which we know about, Harry Maguire, a centre midfielder, which really is Fernandes' position, and a wide player this summer. So I'm slightly confused by this by Manchester. I think some of the fans are as well, because they were actually getting excited by this potential Fernandes deal. So, yeah, it's left things a bit quite in the air of the news overnight.
Yeah, it does. And we can have a look at the midfield positions currently, the players that are currently at United. And if we have a look at them, I mean, my question would be, do they need to strengthen? I mean, obviously, you said that they were looking at these positions, but there's some pretty good names there.
Yeah, Pogba being one of them, obviously. Fred, you've got McTominay, you've got Matic, Mata and Pereira as well. For me, this is fascinating in terms of the machinations between this. I mean, to be blunt, is it a bluff? Look, we know Manchester United want a central midfielder. All right, it might not be their top priority in terms of positions. They want a centre-back. They might want another striker if Romelu Lukaku leaves. They might want someone in a wide player. But is this just a negotiating tactic? So I'm only asking this because, look, if Manchester United walk away from the table and Sporting want to cash in now, the only way to get Manchester United back to the table is to say, all right, we'll accept less money. And then the negotiations start all over again. It's not... it's quite a common tactic in transfer negotiations. It's not anything new to say, oh, actually, we don't really want this player. Then all of a sudden you go back in for him again later on. I'm not saying that United, are doing this, but it's more common than you think. And I think this is an excellent player that could genuinely, legitimately help Manchester United in the short term.
It'd be interesting to see whether they view him as a replacement to Paul Pogba if he does go. Obviously, we haven't heard loads on that over the last couple of days, but if he does stay, then the two of them together would be a pretty tasty, pairing to see for Manchester United fans as well. So it'd be interesting to see how they fit it in together if they both end up playing for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer next season.
Yeah, I mean, Fernandes, he starred in the match against Liverpool last night. Jurgen Klopp, after the game, ruled out a move to Liverpool. There was actually some people tweeting over the past couple of days, Liverpool fans saying, why aren't we going after this player? But yeah, Klopp has said no, he won't come to Liverpool. But not a bad time to impress if you're a player who's looking for a move to the Premier League when you're playing against a Premier League side. Alice, what about the Sporting perspective, though? What has the head coach had to say?
Well, he was actually quite tight-lipped after the game yesterday. He was asked about where he sees the future, and he said Bruno is a good player, he's an important player. Everyone would like that he stays at the club, but we don't know what the future brings. So we have to wait. And he said, I'm just the coach, you're asking the wrong guy. We know he plays very well, but, this is the job for the coach. You have to realise that some players aren't going to go, every player can go, but we have to wait and see. So you kind of get the feeling that he might be admitting defeat. He knows there that he's powerless to stop the player going if he wants to, if Manchester United do, up their chase for this player. It seems that the manager, he's staying tight-lipped, but, yeah, potentially admitting defeat there, I'd say.
The player does want to, though.
Yeah.
He's already come out and said, I would like to move to England.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of surprised by all this because he couldn't do any more as a player. You know, he went away to Italy at a young age. He developed season on season on season. His goal scoring has gone from 5 goals in a season to 10, now to 20 last season in the league alone. Never mind goals in cup competitions as well. He's probably thinking, what more do I have to do? I've just broken into a very, very good Portugal team to start as well. Now it's now or never for him, surely. So he has a good relationship with Sporting. I don't think he wants to tear that relationship apart, but the player will be probably getting a little bit frustrated here.
Yeah, this is one to watch, certainly. Right, Dave, what is the state of play elsewhere?
Yes, in an exclusive interview with Sky Sports News, Jurgen Klopp has dismissed any talk of Liverpool making a move for Gareth Bale this summer and says they need a team rather than individuals. Arsenal remain hopeful a season-long loan deal for Real Madrid midfielder Dani Ceballos will go ahead, despite Marco Asensio suffering a serious injury. Ceballos is understood to be in London for a medical after the clubs agreed a deal. We understand Everton want to sign Wilfried Zaha and will hold talks over a deal this week. West Ham have confirmed the departure of Pedro Obiang, who has joined Sassuolo for an undisclosed fee. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola says Leroy Sané's future at the club is not in our hands. And Steven Gerrard has confirmed that Eros Grezda is set to leave Rangers just a year after signing.
Yeah, lots of you already getting in touch using that hashtag transfer talk. Mufasser says Man United should prioritise Bruno Fernandes. It is a no-brainer. And then a few Manchester United fans, we were talking about whether they do need to sign someone. Lee Wild saying if we don't sign a centre midfielder this season, we'll finish outside the top 6. Simple as that. Make sure you keep on getting in touch. We're going to move on to Everton now. Looking like Idrissa Gueye is on his way out of the club. Dave, what's the latest with this?
Yeah, it looks like this is going to be close to being completed. The clubs have agreed a deal worth £28 million for the midfielder to move to the French capital. The players' wage negotiations are not expected to be a problem. He's been at Everton for 3 years after moving there from Aston Villa. You'll remember that PSG tried to sign him in the January window. But, I mean, as normally is the case, players are more expensive in the January window than they are in the summer window, and Paris Saint-Germain couldn't get near Everton's valuation of the player in January. There was also the case that PSG's move in January was so late in the window that Everton had no time to get a replacement in, and that was one of the reasons why Everton really dug their heels in over Idrissa Gueye leaving the club. Now it's slightly different. We know they have brought in Fabian Delph. We know that Marco Silva has said he's not a replacement, but it does seem like that move is going to go through now, and Gueye will be at PSG this summer.
And I mean, he has been a pretty key player, I think it's fair to say, for Everton. Anton, how much of a miss will he be?
I think sneaky big, to be brutally honest. You look at his stats.
I don't know what that means.
Sneaky. It's 2 words. Underrated. Is that better? Should we use proper words, proper phrases? Yeah, if you look at what he contributed last season alone. You say he's been there for 3 years, Dave, but last season alone, he played in 33 Premier League games. He was top of the tackles. I mean, that's straight away, you lose that from the team. Also, you've got interceptions and duels where he was getting involved with other players. Well, he was key. He was key to the way Everton played defensively. There you go. He's key to the way Everton played defensively. And Fabian Delph is a very, very good player, but is he an exact replica? No, he isn't. And also, we saw it at the Africa Cup of Nations. Gueye brings drive up and down the midfield as well, so he doesn't just sit. It's a really difficult position to fill for a squad, and I wouldn't be surprised if Everton signed Delph and then look for another player, even though they've got alternatives in the squad.
It's got the N'Golo Kante's about him, with his style of play, sort of just sweeps everything away, nippy midfielder. I mean, Everton fans were really impressed with him. Big disappointment this would be for Everton, looking to get into that top 6, losing a key player at this stage of the pre-season.
He said he wanted to play in the Champions League, doesn't he? So I think this is a reward for the service that he has given them over the years. So it's good for him to have got that move, definitely, and be playing at that level. Interesting to see how well he does.
I wonder whether him playing for Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League will alleviate some of the brittleness that PSG have suffered in the Champions League over recent years. You look at the defeats to Barcelona and Manchester United over the last couple of years. They have been brittle in defending leads, so maybe he can do something to alter that.
Interesting name there, James McCarthy. It'd be interesting to see if he stays at Everton now. There were negotiations between Crystal Palace and Everton. I understand that's not the case at the moment. The club's quite wide in their valuation. Is he thinking now, is my time ready now? But obviously he's had so many injury problems as well.
Yeah, and Dave, you mentioned kind of where this leaves Everton. Obviously, the Delph thing, not a replacement for Gay, though. Is it a little bit of a worry as we keep on saying that clock is ticking, that they haven't brought more players in, and whether they do have the backup for Gay to replace a player like him?
Yeah, 2 weeks today. It's going to be deadline day. It's going to be very exciting in this building in a couple of weeks' time. But the priorities for Everton in this transfer window were a central defender, and in particular they were hoping to turn Kurt Zouma's loan move into a permanent move. Now, it looks like at the moment that's not going to happen because he wants to stay and fight for his place at Chelsea. Things might change if Frank Lampard has a conversation with Kurt Zouma, but can Everton afford to hang around and wait for a potential, maybe a conversation to have? So they are looking for a central defender, and they will have to look on to potentially other targets other than Kurt Zouma. And every time we talk about Everton, we have a lot of Everton fans contacting us on social media saying we need a striker. We need a striker. Have they ever really replaced Romelu Lukaku? I think they would let Cenk Tosun go in this window if they had a suitable player coming in. And at the moment, all the pressure is going to be on Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front. And I think Everton are pleased with his development so far, but is he ready to lead the line for Everton? That's maybe one for the people at home to be tweeting in on the hashtag transfer talk. But they are looking for a striker, and our colleagues at Sky in Italy are reporting this morning, actually, that Juventus sporting director Fabio Paratici is in England, and at the heart of his trip to this country, he is negotiating transfers for Mose Ken, the striker, and he could be a possibility for Everton, and also Sami Khedira. He's looking to move him on from Juventus. They've obviously made signings in midfield this summer. And also the goalkeeper as well, Mattia Perran. Sky Italy saying they're looking to negotiate potentially with Aston Villa for that goalkeeper. So there could be movement from Juventus, and Everton could be a beneficiary of that.
Yeah, and there's just one name that I want to throw out there when we're talking about potential backups for Idrissa Gueye, going back to that. Morgan Schneiderlin. I mean, we were talking about forgotten men at some point on this show over the past few weeks, and he seems to have been a little bit forgotten about.
He was, and he started surprisingly in a couple of games sort of halfway through last season. Everyone was like, oh, yeah, he's still part of the squad. I think it's interesting because when he went to Everton, his stats were really similar to Idrissa Gueye's. Yeah, he was the top tackler in the Premier League for midfielders. He was the guy that sort of protected Southampton, and then he went to Manchester United and it didn't work out, and then he's never really discovered his form since, has he? Can they get more out of him? I don't know, but I think Everton are looking to move on probably from Morgan Schneiderlin, to be brutally honest. But Tom Davies is another one for me, who's got so much potential, who's just been so unlucky with injuries. He's one this could work out perfectly for.